In a village where silence was sacred and the past was buried deeper than the dead, a 20-year-old girl returned, not to seek forgiveness, but to awaken the ghosts her mother left behind. What she uncovered wasn't just an old man's sin, it was an entire village's silence, rotting at the roots. The village was quiet, too quiet for a place that used to echo with laughter, gossip, and the sound of old radios playing in the background. Now, it felt like the air itself held secrets, ancient, heavy, and unspoken. Alina, barely 20, had just returned from the city. She didn't look like she belonged in this broken-down village, dressed in a leather jacket, boots muddied from the walk, and eyes that carried a storm. She hadn't come for a vacation. She came looking for something or someone. Locals avoided her, whispering to one another behind half-closed doors. Everyone recognized her face, or at least they thought they did. Some said she looked like her mother. Others were convinced she was the daughter of the woman who vanished 20 years ago. But no one dared ask. Not in a place where memories could kill. At the far end of the village, in a crooked hut made of stone and old regrets, lived a man people only referred to as Baba. No one remembered his real name anymore. His presence was a shadow that stretched over the whole village. Children were warned never to go near his house. Women avoided looking in his direction. Men, even the bravest, crossed themselves when passing by. But Alina walked straight into his domain, like she had walked into storms before. He was sitting on an old charpai, feeding the crows that gathered at his feet like disciples. His eyes were milky with age, but sharp with awareness. He looked up before she even spoke, as if he had been waiting for her. "So you came," he said, voice rough like gravel. "I had to," she replied calmly. "Then let's not pretend this is a coincidence." She sat across from him, crossing her legs. Her backpack landed on the dusty floor with a dull thud. The crow cawed once, sharply, and then silence returned like a thick fog. "I suppose you know who I am," she said. "You're her daughter. Or her ghost. Hard to tell these days." Alina smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "You don't believe in ghosts, do you?" "I believe in consequences." That made her chuckle. "Good. Because that's exactly what I am." Inside the bag was a small metal box. She didn't open it yet. Baba's eyes lingered on it, his hands trembling just slightly now. "I was young," he started, as if reading her mind. "You were cruel," she corrected. The old man took a deep breath. "You don't know everything." "No," she said. "But I know enough." The wind outside howled suddenly, slamming the wooden door shut behind her. Baba didn't flinch. Neither did she. "I heard the story," Alina continued, "of a girl, barely 17, who dared say no to a powerful man. A man who couldn't take it. So he took everything else instead, her home, her parents, her sanity. He left her wandering in the forest, bleeding, broken, and pregnant. She could have left," Baba said, almost as if defending himself. "She tried." Alina snapped. "But your men dragged her back. And then you made sure no one ever saw her again." "I didn't kill her," Baba muttered. "No," Alina agreed, her voice like a blade. "But you killed everything inside her." She finally opened the metal box. Inside was a single vial, glowing faintly green, nestled in a bed of cotton. Baba's eyes widened. For the first time, a flicker of fear crawled across his face. "You came to kill an old man?" he asked. "I came to give her peace," she whispered. And then she stood up, walking slowly toward the kettle of tea that still steamed on his stove. She poured the tea with slow, deliberate grace, as if time had no say in what was about to happen. The faint clink of the cup meeting the saucer echoed in the room, far too loud for such a small sound. Baba watched her every move, his breathing shallow, his eyes flickering between her face, and the vial still resting in the open box. She took one of the cups and held it out toward him. "Tea," she offered, almost sweetly. He hesitated. "You think I'm foolish enough to drink that?" She smiled. "You think I'm foolish enough to poison it in front of you?" He didn't reach for it. His hands stayed on his knees, veins pulsing like rivers of guilt. She shrugged and took a sip from the same cup, her eyes never leaving his.
See? Safe.
For now. She put the cup down on the table beside him, then leaned in closer. But let's not pretend this is about tea. This is about memory. And reckoning. Baba coughed, a deep, rattling sound that seemed to shake more than just his lungs. I've lived with this curse longer than you've been alive. Every night I see her face. Every morning, I pray I won't wake up. Then today is your lucky day, she said coldly. She picked up the vial now, holding it up against the light. The liquid shimmered like serpent's venom. Her fingers were steady, her heart strangely calm. She used to sing, Alina said quietly. My mother. Did you know that? Even when she was hurting, she sang.
To me.
I remember her voice more than her face. The old man closed his eyes. I remember, he whispered. That was the last thing I heard before. He didn't finish. She twisted the cap of the vial open, and the scent that escaped was oddly sweet, like burnt flowers and bitter almonds. You are a god to this village, she said. People feared you, obeyed you, worshipped you.
But you were never divine.
You were just a monster who wore the cloak of tradition. And you, he rasped, are just a child playing judge. She knelt beside him now, close enough to smell the decades of secrets on his skin.
No, she said.
I'm the verdict. He looked at the vial, now inches from his face. You think this will fix her? He asked, voice trembling. No, Alina said. But it'll silence you. And that's a start. And just as she raised the vial toward the teacup, the sound of footsteps outside made her freeze. A sharp knock on the door. Then another. Someone was here. She slowly stood up, sliding the vial back into her pocket. The old man was trembling now, not from fear of death, but of being seen, being exposed. The door creaked open before she could reach it, and in walked someone Alina never expected to see. The hinges groaned as the door opened fully, letting in a cold gust of wind, and with it, a figure cloaked in deep maroon, face half covered with a scarf, eyes sharp like broken glass under moonlight. Alina froze. Her breath caught in her throat. The woman standing in the doorway stepped in slowly, closing the door behind her without taking her eyes off either of them. 20 years, the woman said, her voice low, thick with the weight of time. And this is where the circle closes. Baba's eyes widened. His lips parted, but no sound came out. Impossible, he croaked, barely able to breathe. You died. Alina took a step back, heart pounding. Mom? The woman slowly pulled the scarf down from her face. Time had etched itself onto her skin, but her eyes were the same.
Fierce. Soft.
Haunting. Yes, my love, she whispered, her voice breaking now. I lived.
Barely.
But I lived. Baba tried to stand, but his legs betrayed him. He collapsed back onto the charpai, staring at her like he'd seen death come to collect. I buried you, he muttered. We saw your body. You saw what you wanted to see, she snapped. A burned face in the forest. No one checked. No one cared. You just needed a body to bury the truth. Tears filled Alina's eyes. She took a hesitant step forward. You were alive all this time? Why didn't you? I was protecting you, her mother said, turning to her. From him. From this place. From the poison that still lives in its soil. She reached out, touching her daughter's face like she still didn't believe she was real. I watched you grow from afar. I knew this day would come. I just never wanted you to carry this weight. Alina was trembling now. But I needed to. I had to make it right. Her mother looked toward Baba, who now looked like a ghost of himself. All power drained. All arrogance gone. Just a man surrounded by the rubble of his sins. You were supposed to be the guardian of this village, she said coldly to him. You preached purity, honor, respect. But behind your doors, you destroyed lives. Baba's lips moved. I was afraid. Alina laughed, hollow and bitter. Afraid men like you always are, of women who say no. A long silence followed. Outside, the wind picked up. The crows began to gather on the windowsills, watching. Alina pulled the vial from her pocket once more, held it up between her and her mother. But now, her hands were shaking. "I brought this for him," she said. "To end it. Once and for all." Her mother stepped forward and gently lowered her daughter's hand. "No," she whispered. "We don't give him death. Not yet." Alina blinked. Then what? Her mother turned to Baba, who looked up at her with the wide, terrified eyes of a man who had already seen his own grave. "We give him truth," she said. "Let him live with it. Let the village hear. Let every name he buried crawl back from the soil and speak." "And then," she added, voice calm, almost cruel, "we watch him rot in the same silence he forced us into." Baba began to weep. But no one reached to comfort him, and no one looked away. Alina stepped back, her eyes never leaving the broken man slumped on the charpai. For a moment, it felt like the entire room had stopped breathing, as if even time was leaning in to listen. Her mother walked slowly around the room, each step echoing like a countdown. She touched the old, rusted lantern on the shelf, the wooden frame of the window, the dusty prayer beads hanging and used on the wall. Everything in that room had once belonged to Fear. Now it belonged to her. "You remember her, don't you?" she said suddenly. Baba didn't respond. "My younger sister, 12 years old when you sent her away, told her she was cursed because she spoke out against you in front of the villagers. You made her walk barefoot in the fields until her feet bled. Where is she buried, Baba?" His mouth trembled. I didn't mean to." "Where is she buried?" she repeated, louder now. He broke, pointed a shaking finger toward the back of the house. "The well," he whispered, "behind the neem tree." Alina's stomach twisted. Her mother looked back at her. "We're not just here to kill a man, Alina. We're here to dig." They walked outside together, mother and daughter, the sky above them darkening, not with clouds, but with justice. The kind that doesn't come with courts or judges, but with spades and memories. Behind the old neem tree, the earth was untouched, but it smelled of secrets. They found the old well, sealed with cracked stones. Alina knelt beside it, placed her palm against the cold surface, and closed her eyes. "We're going to open it," her mother said. "We're going to name them. Every girl, every woman, every voice he buried." "And then?" Alina asked. Her mother looked toward the house, where Baba still sat, alone now, muttering prayers that wouldn't save him. "Then we bring the village here." "But they're afraid of him," Alina said. Her mother turned toward her, and this time, there was a fire in her eyes that no storm could put out. Not anymore. As they began pulling the stones away from the mouth of the well, the crows above cawed louder, as if warning the village. The dead are not forgotten. The silence is breaking. The reckoning has begun. The last stone clattered to the ground with a hollow thud, and for a long moment, neither of them said anything. Alina wiped the dirt from her hands, her fingers trembling slightly. Her mother stood beside her, unmoving, staring into the dark mouth of the old well. The air felt heavier now, not just with dust and age, but with the spirits of the forgotten. The women who had never had the chance to speak. The children who never saw sunlight again. The silence that had once been a curse was now a witness. Alina lit a lantern and held it over the edge. The faint, golden light disappeared into the blackness below. Her mother whispered something under her breath, not a prayer, but a promise. "I see you now, all of you." By sunrise, the village was awake. Not because of the usual clatter of morning chores, but because word had spread, Baba's house had been opened. The well had been unsealed, and she had returned. They came slowly, unsure, drawn like moths to a fire that both terrified and mesmerized them. Women covered their heads and stood at a distance. Men approached cautiously, carrying 100 years of guilt in their shadows. Alina stood at the front of the house. Her clothes were stained with earth. Her eyes were red but burning. She didn't shout. She didn't threaten. She simply raised her voice and began to speak. "You all know who he is," she said, pointing toward the old house, where Baba sat slumped inside, too weak now to walk, too haunted now to speak. "You've known for years, But you chose silence. You chose obedience. She turned slowly, eyes scanning the crowd. And I don't blame you, because fear is a disease that spreads quietly. It turns brave people into shadows. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Some looked down. Some looked ashamed. A few looked angry, but not at her. Alina's mother stepped forward now. Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried with an unnatural weight, the kind of voice that only those who've truly suffered can possess. 20 years ago, I disappeared. You told my mother I had run away with someone. You whispered that I was a disgrace. You nodded quietly when he told you not to ask questions. But I never ran.
She paused.
I was buried, alive, in this village's silence. Someone in the back sobbed. A woman dropped her pail of water. Another stepped forward, trembling, pulling back her shawl. I was 12, she said. He locked me in the temple basement for 2 days because I refused to marry his nephew.
Gasps.
Faces turned pale, but no one interrupted. Another woman stepped forward. He told me my daughter was possessed. He made me sign papers sending her away. I never saw her again. And then another voice. And another. Until the village square, once quiet and cold, was now vibrating with the sound of truth. What had begun as a reckoning became a revolution. The men looked around, stunned, confused. Some stepped back, as if the truth itself might strike them down. But some, a few, stepped forward too. One of them, an elder who had always sat in the front row of Baba's sermons, raised his hand. I was afraid, he said simply. But fear is no excuse. He turned to Baba's house. We let him become God. But he was only ever a man. The doors of the house creaked open. Baba was pushed out gently, his body shaking with every breath. His face was a hollow mask. His eyes looked up at the crowd not with pride, but with something they'd never seen in him before.
Shame.
They didn't drag him. They didn't hurt him. They let him sit in the dirt, surrounded by the weight of everything he had created and everything he had lost. Alina walked toward him slowly, kneeling beside him. I thought I wanted you to die, she said softly. I came here thinking that would be justice. She placed the vial on the ground beside him. But death is a mercy, and mercy is not yours to receive. He said nothing. Tears rolled silently down his face. She leaned closer, her voice cold and clear. You will live. You will live and listen. Every single day, you will hear the stories of the girls you broke, the mothers you shamed, the daughters you silenced. You'll eat their names with every bite. You'll dream their voices until your last breath. Then she stood and walked away. She never looked back. Weeks passed. Then months. The village changed. The temple that once only echoed Baba's voice now echoed with the laughter of children. The women began gathering openly. They told stories, shared names, wrote down the truths that had once been buried in bones and dust. The well remained uncovered, a monument to memory. No flowers, no offerings. Just silence. And respect. Baba lived barely. His house, now watched day and night, was no longer a place of worship, but a prison made of guilt and time. The villagers didn't hurt him. They didn't touch him. They just let him be seen. For the first time, truly seen. Alina stayed for a while, long enough to see the fire turn into light. Then, one morning, she packed her bag. Her mother walked with her to the edge of the village. Will you come back? Her mother asked. Alina smiled. This place doesn't need me anymore, she said. It has you. They embraced, not like a goodbye, but like the beginning of something else. A new chapter. A healed future. As Alina walked down the dusty path, past the neem tree, past the well, past the ghosts of a time that once defined her, she felt lighter. She had come looking for vengeance. But she had found something better. Truth. And truth, once free, never dies.